Love is not a fleeting emotion. It's not something that simply fades into the background like an old song on the radio. When love is real, it doesn't vanish the moment two people decide to walk their separate paths. Instead, it lingers, woven into the fabric of who we are, shaping our thoughts, influencing our emotions, and guiding our memories. Think about it. When you build a deep emotional connection with someone, it doesn't just evaporate. It's not like flipping a switch where one moment feelings are there and the next they're gone. No, love is more like an imprint, a powerful force that leaves its mark long after the moment has passed. It's a living, breathing energy that continues to exist even if the relationship has ended. When two people come together, they share experiences, laughter, struggles, and moments of deep vulnerability. These moments don't just disappear into thin air. They become a part of who we are, etched into our minds and hearts. That's why even after a breakup, you can hear a certain song, visit a familiar place, or even catch a scent that reminds you of them, and suddenly it all comes rushing back. Because love, when it's real, creates memories that don't just fade. Now let's talk about him. If he truly loved you, if what you both shared was real, then his feelings didn't magically vanish when the relationship ended. Sure, he may be doing his best to push those emotions down. He might be trying to distract himself, to convince himself that moving on is the right thing to do. But deep down, that love still exists. It's still there, just beneath the surface. And here's the thing about love. Right now, he may be trying to act like everything is fine. He might be putting on a brave face, posting pictures with friends, staying busy, maybe even dating someone new. But that doesn't mean the love is gone. It simply means he's trying to outrun it. Because facing love after a breakup, that's one of the hardest things a person can do. People often mistake breakups as the end of love, but in reality, they can be the greatest test of love. When someone is forced to live without you, they get a chance to see what life truly feels like in your absence. And let me tell you, when a man has loved deeply, when he has built a connection that truly mattered, that absence is felt. It's felt in the quiet moments, when the distractions fade, when he's alone with his thoughts, when he's lying in bed at night replaying the way you used to laugh at his jokes, or the way your eyes lit up when you talked about something you were passionate about. Love isn't something that just disappears because circumstances change. It's something that endures, even in the face of separation, even if he tries to suppress it, even if he tries to convince himself that he's fine without you. The truth is that love has a way of making itself known. It seeps into the cracks of our resolve, reminding us of what was, of what mattered, of what still exists, even if it's unspoken. Have you ever noticed how people can go years without seeing someone, and yet the moment they reunite, all those emotions come flooding back? That's because love is persistent. It doesn't just pack its bags and leave when the relationship ends. It stays, sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly, but always present. That's why so many people after a breakup find themselves struggling to move on. They think time will erase their feelings. They believe that if they just keep busy, if they just meet someone new, if they just pretend everything is okay, then eventually the love will disappear. But it doesn't work that way. Love is not something we can simply will away. It's an energy that remains, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be understood. Even if he's trying to move forward, even if he's telling himself that this breakup was for the best, there are moments, unguarded, unexpected moments, where he feels it. When he's driving alone and a song comes on that reminds him of you. When he walks past a place where you used to share inside jokes. When he hears a phrase you used to say all the time. It's in those moments that love reveals itself, proving that it was never truly gone in the first place. And let's be clear, this doesn't mean he will automatically act on these feelings. It doesn't mean he will pick up the phone and call you tomorrow. But it does mean that the love, if it was real, still exists. And the more he tries to ignore it, the louder it will become. Because love, real love, doesn't just disappear. It lingers. It stays. It shapes us in ways we don't always understand. And whether he admits it or not, whether he shows it or not, If he truly loved you, that love is still alive within him. Time has a way of revealing the truth that emotions often blur. When a relationship ends, it's easy to think that the feelings will fade just as quickly as the last conversation. But that's not how love works. If anything, distance and separation can sharpen emotions, not erase them. Reflection has a way of bringing clarity, especially for the one who walked away or thought they could move on without looking back. Think about the moments in your life when you've lost something valuable. At first, maybe you didn't even realize its full worth. Maybe you took it for granted, believing it would always be there. But then as time passed, as you lived without it, the weight of its absence became undeniable. You started to see the little details you once overlooked. You started to understand the impact it truly had on your life. This is what happens in love. When a relationship ends, it creates a space that allows for deep reflection whether someone wants it or not. At first, after a breakup, emotions are high. There's frustration, relief, sadness, and sometimes even a sense of freedom. But as time passes, as the dust settles, something else starts to happen: reflection. And that's where the truth begins to surface. He might have thought he could walk away without feeling the weight of what he left behind. Maybe he even told himself that moving on would be easy. But then, in the silence of his own thoughts, in the moments when he's no longer distracted by temporary comforts, he starts to see things differently. He begins to replay the relationship not with the same emotions that were present during the breakup, but with a new perspective, one shaped by time and distance. At first, he might only remember the reasons it ended. He might justify the breakup in his mind, convincing himself that he made the right decision. But as days turn into weeks and weeks into months, his mind will shift. The moments that once frustrated him will start to seem insignificant. The little things he once overlooked will start to stand out. He will remember the way you supported him when he was at his lowest. He will recall the way you laughed at his jokes, even when no one else did. He will think about the way you understood him in ways no one else ever has. And this reflection doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow realization, one that builds over time. It happens when he least expects it, when he's scrolling through his phone and comes across an old picture, when he hears your name in a casual conversation, when he walks past a place where the two of you once shared a moment that meant something. One of the most powerful aspects of reflection is that it strips away ego. In the beginning, pride may have told him that he made the right choice, that he was better off, that moving on was what he needed. But pride is loud and truth is quiet. And when the noise fades, the truth begins to whisper. The truth reminds him of what he had. The truth makes him question whether he truly let go, or if he simply walked away without realizing what he was leaving behind. This reflection also brings another painful realization. Replacement isn't the solution. He might try to fill the void with distractions, new experiences, new people, new routines, but deep connections aren't easily replaced. No one will laugh in the same way you did. No one will challenge him in the way you did. No one will understand his thoughts before he even speaks them the way you did. And that realization, that's when reflection turns into regret. He will start to wonder if he made a mistake. He will think about what he could have done differently. He will question whether it's too late, whether he lost something he didn't fully appreciate in the moment. And that's the power of reflection. It forces people to confront the truth they've been trying to avoid. It makes them see what was real, what was rare, and what might never come again. The mind has a way of filtering memories over time. The longer he spends apart from you, the more his perspective will shift. The fights won't seem as important. The misunderstandings will feel trivial. The good times will begin to overshadow the bad. And when that realization fully settles in, when he truly understands what he had, he will feel the weight of what he lost. Reflection isn't just about remembering, it's about realizing. It's about seeing things clearly, sometimes for the very first time. And whether he admits it to himself or not, whether he speaks it out loud or keeps it buried inside, the truth remains. When love was real, its absence is felt. And once that reflection begins, It's impossible to ignore. When a breakup happens, it's easy to fall into a trap, the trap of thinking that somehow you were not enough. That maybe if you had done something differently, if you had been better, if you had changed certain things, then he wouldn't have left, or the relationship wouldn't have ended. But that mindset is a lie. The truth is, your worth has never been and will never be dependent on someone else's ability to recognize it. You are the prize, whether he sees it now, later, or never at all. See, here's what happens in relationships. When people are close to something valuable, they can sometimes take it for granted. It's not necessarily intentional, it's human nature. We get used to what's familiar. And in that familiarity, we sometimes stop appreciating what we have. It's like living next to the ocean and forgetting how beautiful the view is, or owning a rare diamond but treating it like any other stone. But the value of the ocean doesn't change just because someone forgets to admire it. The worth of the diamond doesn't decrease just because someone doesn't recognize its rarity. And in the same way, your worth does not diminish just because someone walked away. If he's still in love with you after the breakup, if he's realizing now what he once had, it's because time and distance have allowed him to see what was always there. But here's what you need to understand. His realization does not define your value. You are always the prize, even when he failed to see it. The problem is, after a breakup, many people focus too much on what they lost rather than remembering what they bring to the table. They start to question themselves, replaying every little moment, wondering what they could have done better. But let's flip the script. Instead of asking, was I enough for him? The real question should be, was he enough for me? Because being in love with you is not enough. A man can love you and still take you for granted. A man can love you and still not be ready to step up. A man can love you and still not know how to treat you the way you deserve. So the fact that he still loves you, that's not the prize. The real prize is you, your heart, your energy, your loyalty, your presence. Think about everything you brought to that relationship. Think about the support you gave him, the way you stood by his side when things got tough, the way you celebrated his wins and encouraged him in his struggles. Think about how you loved him, how you understood him in ways that maybe no one else ever did. That wasn't just any kind of love. That was a love that mattered, a love that shaped him, a love that he is now realizing he may never find again. And that's why he's still in love with you, because people don't just walk away from something real and forget about it. But here's where things get interesting. This isn't just about whether he still loves you. This is about whether he's actually worthy of you, because love alone is not a reason to go back. Feelings are not enough to justify reopening a door that led to heartbreak. What matters now is whether he recognizes what he had and whether he's willing to rise to the level of the prize that you are. See, you don't lower your standards because someone finally realizes your worth. You don't shrink yourself down because someone suddenly wakes up and sees what they lost. That's not how this works. If he truly sees you now, if he truly understands, then it's up to him to prove that he is worthy of standing in your presence again, not the other way around. And here's something else to think about. If he's still in love with you after the breakup, if he's looking back and realizing what you meant to him, that means you left an impact. It means you mattered. And that in itself is proof that you were never the problem. Because people don't hold on to feelings for someone who is insignificant. People don't reminisce about someone who had no value in their life. If he's still in love with you, it's because you were unforgettable. But the real question now is, what do you want? Because being the prize means you get to choose. You get to decide if you want to entertain his return or if you want to move forward, knowing that your worth was never dependent on his recognition. The moment you start seeing yourself as the prize, everything changes. Because then it's no longer about whether he still loves you. It's about whether he has finally risen to the level of the love you always gave him. Love alone is never enough to determine what happens next. Feelings are powerful, yes, but they are not the sole foundation of a relationship. A person can love you and still not be right for you. A person can love you and still not be capable of giving you the relationship you deserve. That's why what happens next isn't about whether he still loves you, it's about what you choose to do with that information. Your next move is what defines your future. And here's the hard truth. Too many people get caught in a cycle of going back to what's familiar simply because it feels safe, because it feels comforting, because they miss what once was. But your decisions can't be driven by loneliness, by nostalgia, or by the fear of being alone. Your next move has to come from strength, from clarity, and from self-worth. Right now you have a choice. You can either step forward or step back. You can allow his feelings to dictate your next steps, or you can take control and make the decision that is best for you. And that decision isn't just about whether you take him back or not. It's about whether you're moving toward the life and love you truly deserve. So before you make any move, you need to ask yourself some real questions. Is he coming back because he truly values me, or because he's feeling the absence of what I gave him? Has he grown, or is he just realizing what he lost? Is he capable of giving me what I need, or is this just temporary regret? Do I want to go back because I still love him, or because I'm afraid to start over? Because let's be clear, just because someone still loves you doesn't mean they're ready to love you the right way. Just because someone misses you doesn't mean they've changed. Love without action is just a feeling. And a relationship that only survives on emotions without growth will end the same way it did before. You have to be brutally honest with yourself. Look at what the relationship was, not just what you wish it had been. If he is still in love with you, but he hasn't done the inner work to be a better partner, then what has really changed? If he is still in love with you, but he still struggles with communication, still avoids commitment, still isn't showing up for you in the ways that matter, then what are you going back to? Your next move has to be intentional. If you choose to give him another chance, it can't be based on emotions alone. It has to be based on tangible change. Words mean nothing without actions. Promises mean nothing without proof. If he truly wants another shot, he has to earn it, not just expect it. He has to show through his actions that he understands what he lost and that he's willing to do the work to be the partner you deserve. And if you choose to move on, that doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It doesn't mean the relationship didn't matter. It simply means that you are choosing you. You are choosing growth over repetition. You are choosing self-respect over recycled pain. And that is the most powerful move you can make. But no matter what you choose, understand this. Your decision shapes your future. If you go back as a person who knows their worth, who demands more than just words, who is unwilling to settle for less than they deserve. And if you move on, move forward with confidence, knowing that love will come again, and that this time it will be from someone who recognizes your value from the start. This is your life, this is your heart, and your next move, that's entirely up to you.